Welcome to your Plus Acumen crash course on behavior change design. This crash course will introduce you to 3 principles of behavior change design. These have been pulled from an entire course that Plus Acumen produced with Dan Ariely, a behavioral economist at Duke and best-selling author. So if you're interested in learning more, be sure to check out that course after this challenge. Okay, let's dig in. I'm going to talk you quickly through 3 design principles you can apply to shift people's behaviors. The first is loss aversion, the second is incentives, and the third is social proof. As I describe each one, try to think about how you might be able to apply these ideas to help others. These behavior change design principles are based upon lots of psychological research and experiments that get to the heart of how you can effectively motivate people and get them to do new things. We won't dig into all the research here, but we'll give you a preview of how they can be applied. So the first principle we'll discuss is loss aversion. To understand this principle, I want you to imagine you are walking down the street with a $100 bill in your pocket. Now, imagine you realize you lost that $100. How would you feel? Probably frustrated, disappointed, and maybe even quite sad. According to studies, the psychological pain of losing is twice as powerful as the joy of gaining the same thing. That means that losing that $100 feels a lot worse than if you gained the equivalent amount. Pretty crazy, right? So, loss aversion is the basic idea that people hate to lose things. They will try to avoid losing something more than they will try to gain something. Keep this in mind when designing products or services, especially if you're trying to get people to change their behavior. If you want people to stick with something, you should get them to feel like they have already committed to something or already own something in some way, so that they will be highly motivated to avoid losing it. What could this look like in practice? Well, a great example comes from the eyeglasses company, Warby Parker. They have a try-at-home program where they send people a set of 5 pairs of glasses that they get to try on in the comfort of their own home. People feel like they already own the glasses, so they don't want to give them up. When people participate in this program, they are much more likely to end up purchasing a pair of glasses. You can also think of loss aversion in terms of the kinds of messages you give people. For example, if you want people to quit drinking soda, you could emphasize how healthy their teeth are now, but then tell them all the ways they could lose those pearly white teeth. Envisioning that scenario could simulate the pain of loss aversion and motivate them to keep brushing their teeth and avoiding soda. So what are the key things to remember? To apply the principle of loss aversion, you should make people feel like they already own something or are committed to something. Then help them imagine the pain of losing it. That's our first principle, loss aversion. Hopefully you're already thinking of some ways you could apply it to help people. Now let's move on to design principle number 2. Incentives. When you hear the word incentives, what do you think of? Maybe it's the candy your mom used to reward you every time you were well behaved. Or the loyalty program at your grocery store that encourages you to keep spending. Or the bonus you get from your healthcare plan if you go to the gym. All of those are indeed incentives. Social scientists break down incentives into 4 broad categories: money, social, things, and points. For money, think of the cash rewards you might earn for completing a survey or using a certain credit card. For social, think about something like Facebook likes. You're incentivized to post things on social media when they're validated by your friends. Things are physical objects, like the candy or a sticker or a prize that you might give to a child to reward good behavior. For adults, physical incentives could be things like a bonus tote bag when you renew your membership to a radio station, or a bonus package of seeds when you purchase a new irrigation system. And finally, Points are what they sound like. They're any time you gamify an experience by giving people points that they can use to track their progress or earn discounts or rewards. Think of a grocery store loyalty program. Or, if you've taken a course with Plus Acumen right now, you might have seen that we've added points when you complete different kinds of assignments. But wait, you might be thinking, some of these types of incentives might not actually motivate me. Good point. Incentives can often be less straightforward than you think, and sometimes they can even backfire. For example, you might be insulted if you showed up to volunteer at a homeless shelter and they suddenly tried to incentivize you to come back by offering you $5 or a sticker. Wait, you might be saying, I'm volunteering because I want to be a good person. I have social motivations. If you start to give me money or small trinkets in exchange, it feels too transactional, and my motivation actually declines. This is a real thing, and it's tricky. The key things to keep in mind with incentives are, as we mentioned, they can be money, things, social, or points. But you should try not to mix transactional rewards, like money, points, or things, with social situations. And the timing of rewards matters. When you're first getting users to perform a behavior, you want the rewards to be given each time the behavior occurs, so that they make a clear connection. Over time, however, surprising or variable incentives work best. A lottery, for example, is a variable reward system. You keep playing because you never quite know when you'll win. All right, that was incentives. Now on to our last principle. Social proof. This means that you want to show people how others use your product, service, or program. You want to tap into their aspirational identity and get them to feel part of a tribe, performing the same desired behaviors. You've seen evidence of social proof anytime you've encountered something like user testimonials or brand logos on a website, or social sharing buttons that indicate how many times an article was shared, or examples of the top choice that other consumers picked. Here are the 3 things to keep in mind if you want to implement social proof. You should make the behavior you desire seem like the norm. For example, if you're trying to get your customers to brush their teeth, you have to make it seem like that's something everyone does. Second, you'll want to make the group you're using to provide social proof specific and similar to your customer. If you're trying to get an Australian toddler to brush their teeth, it wouldn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense to show them pictures of a Peruvian businessman and how much he loves toothbrushing. Instead, find an analogous group of people that they would respect and trust. Third, figure out the places where your customers encounter the most uncertainty or decisions when they use your product or service. This is the point at which you should place the social proof. For example, if you find that people frequently get stuck on the checkout page of your website, deciding whether or not they should actually purchase your amazing toothbrush, that is where you should make sure there are lots of customer reviews and testimonials to help them see that other people have adopted this behavior and been really thrilled that they did. Here are a few more examples of social proof in action. Verified users on Twitter, or anything that builds a mark of expert credibility into your product and gives it an aspirational quality. Or staff picks, or a diner's choice button that helps you understand what other people's favorites have been. That wraps up our last behavioral design principle. So that's your crash course in behavioral change design. We've covered 3 principles: loss aversion, incentives, and social proof. Now it's time for you to get to work applying them to the challenge. Head back to Slack to start discussing these 3 principles with your team. Good luck.